I've seen bravery on battlefields. I've seen political leaders strut behind podiums, calling themselves courageous for signing papers or delivering speeches. But what I witnessed in the ruins of Gaza redefined courage for me. And it wasn't loud, it wasn't flashy, it didn't trend on social media or headline a news bulletin. It was silent, stoic, and stained with dust and blood. There she was, a Muslim mother, mid-30s maybe, face drawn, eyes hollow, but somehow piercing. Her home had been obliterated, the roof was gone, the walls were crumbling, and in her arms her child, wounded, trembling, still alive. She wasn't screaming, she wasn't running, she was whispering, soft Arabic words, rhythmic, gentle, like a lullaby in the middle of hell. In that moment, nothing else mattered, not politics, not ideology, not whose side you were on. What mattered was the raw, brutal, unfiltered image of a mother doing what no system, no government, no global summit could, keeping humanity alive. That's courage, not medals, not declarations, not power plays. Courage is the mother who stands in ruins and chooses to love anyway. Courage is not collapsing when the world collapses around you. It's wrapping hope around your child even when hope is nowhere in sight. She didn't ask for sympathy. She didn't want to be interviewed. She didn't care about what I thought, but what she didn't realize, what she may never know, is that she changed me. She forced me to look past the headlines and into the heart of what we've lost as a civilization, the ability to see raw humanity and be moved by it. You don't forget someone like that. You can't, and maybe, just maybe, that's the point. You think belief is easy until it's all you have left. We throw the word around. Faith, hope, trust, like it's decorative, but in Gaza, I saw what belief looks like when it's stripped to its core. No churches, no grand ceremonies, no slogans. Just a battered man standing beside the remains of his home, feet in the dust, eyes toward the sky, whispering words from the Quran with a stillness that felt like defiance. I asked him, genuinely curious, even skeptical, how do you still believe after this? After watching your world fall apart, he didn't flinch, he didn't hesitate. He looked at me, calm, composed, and said, because belief is the only thing they can't bomb. That hit me like a freight train. There's a certain power in that kind of faith, not the kind preached for likes or manipulated by politics, but the kind that sits in your bones, forged in loss, pain, and unspeakable grief. It's not loud. It doesn't need to be, it just is, and in a place where so much has been taken, homes, schools, family, future, that invisible thing, that belief, becomes everything, their backbone, their oxygen, their weapon against despair. We in the West are quick to question faith when the Wi-Fi drops or a train runs late. But what I saw was a kind of spiritual resilience that puts our complaints to shame. These people aren't deluded. They're not brainwashed, they're anchored, and in anchoring themselves, they remind us of something we've forgotten, that when the material world collapses, you discover what's actually holding you up. That man didn't try to convince me of anything. He didn't argue or persuade, but in 5 words, he gave me a truth I'll never unhear. And maybe, if you let it, you won't either imagine losing everything, your home, your relatives, your future, all in a matter of seconds. Now imagine what your first reaction would be: anger, bitterness, fury at the injustice of it all. I'll tell you what this family in Gaza did. They prayed, not for themselves, not for revenge, not even for an escape. They prayed for others. Let that sink in. We live in a world where people lose their temper over a wrong coffee order, where inconvenience is treated like a crisis. And yet, in the epicenter of real suffering, in the middle of actual devastation, I saw a Muslim family sit together on a cracked floor, heads bowed, hands raised, not asking why this happened to them, but asking for peace for everyone else. There's a dignity in that I can't explain, a humility that disarms you. They had nothing, no electricity, no running water, no safety. But what they did have was a kind of grace that most of us can only pretend to understand. A mother who just hours earlier had lost her brother, now whispering prayers for the people across the border. A child no older than 10, drawing hearts in the dust while murmuring hope for the world. It wasn't performative, they weren't doing it for me. In fact, they barely noticed I was there, and maybe that's what made it all the more powerful. It was real, pure, unfiltered humanity in its most sacred form. We measure our lives in comfort, they measure theirs in compassion. There's a lesson in that, one we don't want to hear but desperately need to. If the people with the least can find it within themselves to care for others, what excuse do the rest of us have? Because I promise you, after seeing it first, and you'll never complain, the same labels are the easiest way to dismiss people you don't understand. Muslim, refugee, foreigner, terrorist, victim. We slap words on strangers like price tags, convinced we've summed up their worth. It's convenient, it's efficient, it's utterly dehumanizing, and in Gaza, I saw those labels disintegrate in real time. It happened in a Rubble strewn alley where a little boy, barefoot, soot on his face, approached one of my crew members with a ball. Didn't speak a word of English, didn't need to, smiled, tossed the ball, and just like that, they were playing. No politics, no questions, just two human beings kicking a ball like it was the most natural thing in the world. That boy didn't see a journalist, he saw a person, and I dare say, in that moment, he was wiser than most adults on the global stage. His sister later came over with a tray, cracked, barely holding together, offering us tea. They'd lost their house, they were living under tarps, and yet they still wanted to serve, still wanted to connect. Not once did they ask us who we were or where we stood, because in their eyes we weren't sides, we were souls. It stunned me and it embarrassed me, because we, those of us watching from a distance, are so eager to divide, to separate, to decide who's worthy of empathy and who isn't. But these children, in the thick of it all, proved what so many of us forget. The default setting of the human heart is connection. You don't walk away from that unchanged, or at least you shouldn't. Because when a child in Gaza can offer kindness to a stranger holding a camera, what excuse do the rest of us have for hiding behind our walls and our labels? Pain has a way of exposing people. Strip away comfort, security, and routine, and you see what someone's really made of. And in Gaza, what I saw wasn't weakness. It wasn't collapse. It was a kind of daily resurrection that would shame even the most privileged among us. I watched a man, his leg in a splint made of cardboard and tape-lay bricks, where his home used to stand. No heavy machinery, no government aid, just bare hands, a trowel, and a will forged in fire. Around him, children gathered shattered tiles, sweeping away glass with their sleeves. They weren't crying. They weren't complaining. They were rebuilding, inch by inch, day by day. Ask yourself, would you? Most people buckle when their routine is disrupted. Miss a flight, misplace a phone. Suddenly it's a crisis. But these people, they've lived through nightmares that should break the human spirit, yet here they are, building something out of nothing. Not because they're told to, because they have to, because the only other option is giving up, and that's simply not in their DNA. And it's not just the physical rebuilding, it's emotional, it's spiritual. I saw women comforting neighbors they barely knew, teenagers writing poetry on torn cardboard, elders singing lullabies to children who have seen more death than life. They're stitching their lives back together with threads of resilience, refusing to let pain define them. That's not survival. That's strength. We love to talk about bounce back, culture in the West, resilience, mindset, grit. But these people are living it, without the luxury of motivational quotes or wellness retreats. If they can stand up day after day, after everything they've endured, then what's stopping the rest of us? Their pain didn't just expose them, it revealed their greatness, and that's the kind of strength the world desperately needs to remember. We spend our lives chasing legacy, building empires, collecting accolades, stamping our names on buildings, books, businesses. But legacy isn't built in boardrooms, it's not defined by applause or headlines, it's forged in fire, and some of the most powerful legacies are written by people the world will never know. In Gaza, I met a family whose names may never be spoken on a world stage. No biographies, no monuments, just dignity in the rubble, and yet they left an imprint on me far deeper than any politician or celebrity ever has. It was the father, stoic, grounded, who stood out, not because he gave a speech or quoted philosophy, but because of how he moved, how he picked up the smallest broken chair from the debris, wiped it off, and set it straight like he was preparing a throne, as if order, beauty, and routine still mattered in the chaos. It wasn't about the chair, it was about refusing to let devastation dictate the terms of his humanity. His daughter, 10 years old, maybe, offered my team water they'd boiled over firewood, carried in scorched plastic. She smiled as if she were hosting royalty, not because she had much, but because what little she had, she offered with pride. And that's where legacy is born, not in comfort, but in character, not in what you have, but what you give when you've got nothing left. They didn't speak of legacy, they lived it, every moment, every small act. Their lives are a quiet, relentless protest against despair, and they changed me, not with words, but with presence, with grace under pressure. With nobility that no poverty could erase, you don't forget people like that, you carry them with you, and whether you realize it or not, they start to shape who you become. For